Hey guys, welcome back to the Power Play with Katie, Daisy, and Chris. And we just touched up on some of the big blockbuster trades that went down last week. And while those are going to be some interesting things to keep your eye on as the season moves forward, we also have to talk about some of the games that have been going on since the Olympic break has ended. So I know the Pens have had a couple games, everybody else had a couple games, and even since the trades have been going down. But Penguins came back from the Olympic break and kind of off to a rocky start there. Hey, guys.
Definitely. I know a lot of people expect them to come back with sort of all guns firing, and they've just been, I wouldn't say slow out of the gate, but they've dropped some games they probably should have won. And I know right now they're leading 2-1 over the Capitals in the second period. And that's a game that you'd hope they're winning, even though they're being outshot 20-8 right now. So if they can come away tonight with 2 points, that would mean a lot, because you just need one of those games just to kickstart the team a bit. I feel like they need something. They need a comeback by 2 goals. They need a shootout victory. They just need something to sort of psych back up a bit.
I think it's worth mentioning with those couple games that the Penguins had dropped over on the West Coast the past couple days. They are now trailing Boston, who has played more games, by 1 point. So they fell out of the lead and are now trailing. But the Bruins are definitely a force to be reckoned with. So,
yeah, Boston's always going to be a force to be reckoned with. And I think as of right now, they're definitely our biggest competition for league standings at the moment. But dropping the game in San Jose, I think, was what really hurt us. You know, both teams fought very hard. It's just the Pittsburgh didn't fight hard enough, I guess, and that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. I mean, it was an exciting game to watch. I don't know if either of you watched it, but I stayed up to watch the whole game because I thought it was going to come down to the very last few minutes. But yeah, dropping that game was probably not the greatest thing that could have happened to them coming off the Olympic break right off the bat. But then they turned it around and, you know, went to Anaheim, who is one of the top teams, if not the best team in the West right now. And even though it went all the way to a shootout, they were still able to pull off a win. So I think maybe that has given them a lot of momentum. You know, like you said, they're up 2-1 right now against the Caps in the second. So that's going to be huge.
And it's early March. I know the standings matter, but a lot of people say you can't win a championship in the regular season. You can help yourself, but there are teams that have won series on the roads in the finals and then made it all the way to the Stanley Cup. So I feel like you just need to, at the moment, just win games. Try and win sort of 2 out of 3 or maybe 3 out of 4. Just keep building that points. You don't want to get out of... You don't want to drop sort of 4 or 5 points behind Boston, because Boston has that play right now where they're not really... They've won 5 in a row. They're not giving up too many goals and they're playing well offensively. So if you can keep doing that and just sort of stay injury-free, I feel like coming playoff time, you won't have anything to worry about. I know sort of traveling for 2 or 3 games, if worse comes to worse and Pittsburgh finishes 2 seed and you have to travel to, if Boston makes it to the conference finals, to Boston for a couple of games, who knows, sort of Boston showed last year that doesn't matter. They came here first 2 games and swept the Penguins at home. So it's a new season. And it's been done before, so I'm sure it won't be worrying Pittsburgh right now.
Boston's a tough team no matter what, though, and they've been that way for the past couple of years. So they're going to be... They've got to be on the radar at least. But you're right. I mean, Boston's a tough force to be reckoned with, but when we are at the top of our game, Pittsburgh is also, you know, a tough force to be reckoned with. Up until, you know, just recently, we were at the top of the standings. So...
And in a quick Penguins update, the Washington Capitals, Brooks Laich, just scored an assist by Backstrom. So it's 2-2 with 10:40 to go in the second period.
and speaking of forces to be reckoned with, though maybe not so much this season coming off his broken leg, but the Lightning are playing the Coyotes right now. It is 1-0 Lightning after the first period, and Stamkos actually has 2 shots on net after the first period. How do you guys think he's going to do? How do you think he's been since returning from such a huge injury, missing the Olympics, not being able to go, trying so hard to be able to make it into the Olympics and just wasn't able to, and is now finally back in the game?
He looks great. I've watched him in his last couple of games since he's returned, and sort of Callahan and himself seem to be forming a bit of a bond, and the team looks reinvigorated with him back. It's almost like you're playing without your star, and you know what? Don't get me wrong, they played well without Stamkos, but with him back, they just look like a different team. They look like a legitimate shot to bring down Boston or Pittsburgh in the finals and throughout the rest of the year. I feel like they're going to be a great team, and Stamkos looks like he's back to his full fitness. He looks great yesterday. I couldn't tell any difference watching him the other day.
Yeah, I mean, he's Tampa Bay's fearless leader, so you can almost kind of relate that to when Crosby was out for a while. The game when he came back, the city was all about it. The team obviously was all about it, and they had a fantastic showing that night. So I can definitely see where all of Tampa Bay was excited, and even that adrenaline from the crowd can even push you to do well as an athlete. So, yeah, totally agree with you, Chris. Yeah, he looks great, and almost as if he was never gone. So. But he's one of the best in the game, so,
You expect that from him when he returns.
Those guys are able to do that.
Do you think that anyone worries that Tampa Bay without Stamkos isn't the same team? I know sort of every team worries that sort of Crosby was out, would Pittsburgh be the same team? But do you feel like that Tampa Bay was legitimately concerned for life after Stamkos, or life when Stamkos leaves or gets traded, or possibility?
I can see where it would be a concern. I mean, he's one of their top players, and especially now with St. Louis gone.
Exactly.
Both of those are going to play into the future of Tampa Bay moving forward for the rest of the semester. So I think it's a legitimate concern that people are wondering what's going to happen to the team.
You did pick up a good player, though, in Callahan. It's not like you traded St. Louis for a scrub off the street.
That's the thing. If you're thinking the Lightning, I would always first think Stamkos, and then I would think St. Louis. And now maybe people that think the same way as I do, maybe they now think Stamkos. And once he proves his worth for the team, maybe their second thought will be Callahan.
Yeah, I agree. Callahan's a very good player, too, and like you said, it's not like they just gave away St. Louis for just anybody. So it was a fair trade on both ends, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how Callahan does in Tampa and how St. Louis does in New York. Because you do have a new team, new chemistry, and with only 6 weeks left until the playoffs, how they're going to fit into the team chemistry that they find themselves with now.
Who do you expect to make a bigger impact on their team? Callahan for Tampa Bay or St. Louis for New York?
I think I'd have to go with Callahan in Tampa Bay, just because there's more opportunity for him to stand out and be a star down there, whereas New York is a very good team, so St. Louis, he's going to join the ranks of other great players there and just almost kind of be a helping hand in continuing the team's success, whereas Tampa Bay has a lot of room to grow, and Callahan is in a prime position to help them do that.
I think Callahan has more space to grow, and St. Louis, I honestly think might be a little kind of his potential maybe. I don't know how to word it. I don't think he has as much room to grow as a player.
He's limited
with New York. He's limited. Compared to Callahan going to the Lightning. I think that might have been the better end of the deal for Callahan and the Lightning in both aspects between the team and him personally as a player.
I know that was definitely a bitter topic of discussion for Tampa Bay fans. I don't know if any of you saw the pictures that surfaced on Twitter of people in their St. Louis jerseys with tape on the back that had written things like traitor.
No.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a couple good ones floating around on Twitter for that. So that trade did not sit well in Tampa Bay at all. But hopefully they can welcome and accept Callahan if he performs well for their team.
Yeah, it's maybe a bit of pressure on Callahan's back, that's for sure. Talking about teams that have the capacity to go deep in the playoffs, the Washington Capitals perplex me a bit. They're a team that has, when they're playing well, can beat Pittsburgh, can beat Boston, can beat the Tampa Bays, and they just haven't been doing that consistently. And if you look at their schedule, they play 7 of the top 10 teams in the NHL standings over the next 3 weeks, and it's really a stretch where if they lose 4 or 5 games and only pick up 4 to 5 points, they're going to find themselves falling down the standings. And I know a lot of Washington Capitals fans believe that team is good enough to win a Stanley Cup. What do you guys think about just their lack of ability to beat teams on a consistent basis?
They're just not consistent. That's the thing. They haven't been consistent for a while now, a few years. They may have been lucky some years, but I don't believe they're consistent. And they have the star power. They have the ability to be a great team, but I'm not sure what their issue is, I guess.
Yeah, they've always kind of had a habit of making it to the playoffs and then not making it very far in the playoffs. And we definitely saw that a couple years ago when they were part of the HBO 24/7. You know, they talked about that they put up great numbers during the season and they go into the playoffs with great standing, but they never seem to get the job done once they're actually in the playoffs. And to be honest, this season, I don't know if I can see them doing that well in the playoffs if they even make it. But as of right now, if the playoffs were to start right now, obviously they would be in, and I think they'd be able to hold their own for a while, but I just don't know how long they would be able to last.
I remember they played the Bruins, I think it was Saturday the 1st of March was the first time they played, and they had 31 shots on goal. They played the Bruins less than a week later and recorded 15 shots a goal. And I know, as we're talking about, sort of consistency is the key, but to have 16 less shots, and they got blanked in that second game against Boston. I know teams do different things offensively and defensively in those matchups, but to just be outscored and outshot after having such a dominating performance the first time around, it's got to be concerning as a player or as a fan just to go to a game and expecting what capitals are you going to have the sort of Stanley Cup competing team, or are you going to have the guys that are just not out there to win? Just they're trying, but they just can't really connect. So it's going to be an interesting dilemma for them coming to the end of the year.
Team chemistry is a huge thing no matter what sport you're playing, no matter what time of the season it is, whether it's regular season, playoffs. So I think once they figure that out, I know it's a couple years in the works, but once they figure that out, I think they'll be fine. They have more than enough star power and more than enough good players to survive the playoffs if they can just figure out that one very important detail. So we'll see what happens down the road and see if maybe this year is the year that it all changes. You never know.
It might be the year they finally find some consistency and are sincerely good instead of maybe just lucky. But we are going to go ahead and take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit about the injuries, some Olympic injuries still floating around in the NHL, still making an impact, but don't go away. We'll be right back. This is the Power Play on WDSR.